All right, good morning, everybody. We are going to talk a little bit about Whole Foods here for a few minutes. I'm sure most of you know that Whole Foods is considered a high-end grocery store. The case that I read concerning Whole Foods discuss about their decision to open a store in downtown Detroit. It's not their typical target market, so we're going to go through some of the issues on this case. Quick history here. Whole Foods opened its first store in Austin, Texas in 1980. At the time, there were only 12 natural food supermarkets in the United States. Whole Foods came out with a mission that they were going to provide healthy food on a large scale. And by 1988, they had expanded to Houston, Dallas, and New Orleans. In the 90s, they expanded organically and through acquisitions. It was important to note that all of their acquisitions, they made sure that they acquired companies that had a healthy image and really met the same core culture that Whole Foods was founded on. By 2012, they had 300 stores in operation with the Whole Foods brand name on them. With the company culture, Whole Foods is committed to their customers, the investors, the environment, and especially the local communities. They have what they call 5% days, where each store, 3 days out of the year, will donate 5% of their after-tax profits to the back into the local communities. Since 1992, Whole Foods has been on Fortune Magazine's 100 Best Companies to Work For. They established what they call the Whole Planet Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that funds low-interest loans to local farmers that help produce produce for each of their stores. They also entered into the Marine Stewardship Council Partnership, which is a foundation that provides sustainable wild-caught fish for all of their customers at the stores. And they had a long-term goal by 2018 to label all products sold in their stores that contained GMOs. In regards to the case here in the store in Detroit, they took a lot of things into consideration before entering the market. At the time of this case, the case stated that there were only 3 grocery store chains in Detroit: Spartan, Save-A-Lot, and Aldi. And food scarcity had been an issue, a long-running issue in Detroit, which enabled Whole Foods to kind of see a opportunity in the marketplace. Now, the National Public Radio Center, the local affiliate there in Detroit, actually did a survey of SNAP participating stores. SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which basically gives assistance for food to low-income families. The NPR affiliate surveyed 240 local SNAP participating stores in and around Detroit. The survey, the affiliate went out and looked at the stores to look for 4 different ingredients. They looked for chicken breast, apples, reduced fat milk, and whole wheat bread. Their findings were a little bit alarming when they noticed that 79% of the stores they surveyed did not have chicken breast, 75% of the stores did not have apples, 15% did not have reduced fat milk, and 44% did not have whole wheat bread. Now, it is a little bit misleading, I felt, in the case here, that only 8% of the 240 stores that they surveyed were actually grocery stores, and the other 92% would be what we would consider carryouts, focusing more on alcohol, lottery tickets, kind of the chips and soda. But those are the stores that participate in the SNAP program. So what this led the survey to conclude is that there are roughly 500,000 people living in the Detroit area without enough healthy food options in this low-income area. And what that is well, what it really means is that people are more likely to suffer prematurely from diet-related diseases such as diabetes if they don't have access to the necessary healthy food options. So when Whole Foods was, again, looking to expand into the Detroit market, one of their main concerns was the image. Whole Foods has been considered an upscale grocery store, often referred to as whole paycheck because it's so expensive. And part of their image was really healthy, wealthy, and white, as they really moved into predominantly white communities. So they set up an internal model to decide where they put their stores. They take into consideration local population density, education levels in the selected markets, as well as income levels. They really had to decide if the market in Detroit was going to accept Whole Foods as part of their community. When we look at the Detroit area statistics, as we had just mentioned, that local income is one of the big factors in determining whether Whole Foods is going to enter a market. We look at the median household income in Detroit, just over $25,000. The median home value, just over $50,000. And the unemployment rate at 18% was 2 or 3 times higher than the national average at the time. We take a look at some of the average prices here in and around the Detroit area. The case had mentioned that there were only 3 grocery store chains earlier in the case, Spartan, Save-A-Lot, and Aldi, that were in Detroit. However, the graph they showed in the case also referenced Kroger and Meijer prices for the Detroit area. So I'm not sure if these were just in the greater Detroit area or if there were just a couple different sources for some of these statistics in the case. But this graph here shows you a couple of the average prices for the grocery store chains in and around Detroit area. So if we just look at a couple of the staples that you would get on any trip to the grocery store, we notice that Whole Foods is almost 80% higher cost than Kroger for just a few of these ingredients that might be on your shopping list. So it really was a concern when entering the Detroit market as to whether or not the local community would be able to afford to shop at Whole Foods. So again, considering getting into Detroit, they went out, did a lot of local surveys, spoke to a lot of the people in the community to decide whether or not they would be welcome there. They did find a location that was near several universities and branch campuses, so Wayne State University, University of Michigan Detroit Center, and Michigan State University Detroit Center were all nearby the location that they ultimately chose, as well as a couple major hospitals, or one major hospital and a hospital system. The Children's Hospital of Michigan and Detroit Receiving Hospital were all very close to the location that Whole Foods ultimately decided on. So even the manager of the Whole Foods store in Detroit had said that they see an awful lot of scrubs during lunch hours. So I think that was a big part of the decision to open in Detroit, is that they found it was a lower income area, but they did find a lot of money in and around, I guess more around the community or the location that they were going to put the store, as far as businesses and visitors coming to that area. So a lot of the reason they decided to move to Detroit market was to try to transform their brand image. And they were hoping that moving to this location would help in that direction. They were also hoping to address food access. As we had said, there was the food scarcity issue long running in Detroit, and hoping to help feed some of the more impoverished neighborhoods as well. A big issue they had was respecting the business bottom line versus the triple bottom line. So I think some of the executives of the company were worried as to whether or not this was social work or if this was good business decision to move into some of the lower income urban settings. So we've got a couple discussion questions that I'm going to leave you with here on this case. The main one that we're going to consider is, now that the Detroit store was operational, they had been in business not quite a year at the time of this case, and the store was not profitable in Detroit. However, the executives of the company did consider it a successful move. They were slowly increasing sales, so they thought that eventually the store would become profitable. So they were considering taking this same business model and opening a store in Chicago's Englewood neighborhood. So our first discussion question that you may want to address in the forum posts: should Whole Foods open a store in Chicago's Englewood neighborhood? We've got a chart here that kind of shows a little bit of the comparison between Detroit and the Englewood neighborhood in Chicago. Median household income in Englewood's a little bit higher, unemployment quite a bit higher, a lot higher population density, poverty line a little bit higher in Detroit. A couple of bonuses: the city of Chicago would give Whole Foods $11 million basically in tax incentives if they decided to move into the Englewood neighborhood. However, there were also no universities or health systems nearby the location that Whole Foods had chosen. So that was a big part of the traffic that the Detroit store had that would not be available in Chicago's neighborhood, in the Chicago neighborhood. We're also going to have another question here if you'd like to address. You don't have to address all of these, maybe one or two. Is opening stores in low-income urban locations a viable long-term strategy, or does it simply water down Whole Foods' current brand? And then finally, I'm going to leave you. This was a quote here from the case that really stuck out to me. This wasn't the main topic that the case wanted us to address, but I thought it was really a better topic than what the case was asking. So we've got a 2012 study done by Will Doing, published on Salon.com, and this study indicated that a specialty grocer will increase surrounding home prices by an average of 17.5%, more than bookstores, bike shops, or gyms. Critics therefore call into question whether Whole Foods Market's presence in these low-income urban areas actually promotes local economic development and food accessibility, or rather benefits developers and drives out local citizens. So the study actually brought into question: is Whole Foods a positive influence in low-income urban areas? Are they helping the community by supplying jobs at the store and offering people healthier options? Or does Whole Foods' entrance into these markets benefit the developers, driving up prices in the local communities, so now the local residents can't afford real estate or any of the new businesses that are moving in, and then it actually drives out the current local businesses and drives out the local citizens, kind of changing their overall community. So I thought those were a few of the main points. I like this last discussion question the best. But if you could just maybe address one of them on the forum post, and I will get back with you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.